Thank you. And thank you, Jerry, for inviting me. I've had a great time here. It's great to talk to all of you and hear the people that like all the work that I've done through the years in pinball. Greg had a very nice, professional, organized presentation, so I'm going to do something completely different. Mine is just me winging it here. And my pictures, when I burned a CD, they came out in a different sequence than I thought they were, so this is going to be pretty random. What this is where I thought people might be interested. This is where we would build our whitewoods at Stern. And I think this is, might be Pirates. But I just wanted to show, that's our microwave where we heat things for our lunches, and those are our wires. What is that drawing? That is Pirates, I think. So these are two Pirates whitewoods that we're building. We had these cool racks. Is it okay if I walk around? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Huh? And this is, if anybody has a question or a heckle or something, just blurt it out anytime you want to. But this was a nice rack that they had at Stern.
Hey, nice rack.
I didn't mean you. You just push this lever down and you could flip the play field to any angle that you wanted to. These little slots here would lock it in place. So that made it nice to work on the whitewoods. Okay, next picture. That's a top view of the Pirates whitewood. Oh, and here's why I wanted to show this. A lot of people ask about this. This was my parlay feature, and it didn't make it in because of cost reduction. But if you went out the out lane, you had a chance to spell parlay, which was these inserts right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we spelled parlay with an E, and that's the way you're supposed to spell parlay for negotiating, but Disney insisted on spelling it with an A for betting. I don't know why, but that's the way they spell parlay. So the way that feature would have worked is that the ball goes down the out lane, drains, beats around on the jet bumper, and maybe spots you a few letters in parlay. If you drain that way again and you finish spelling parlay, you would have gotten an extra ball. And this hole is that's the hole for the ship. Here's where the treasure chest goes, and that's the Mixmaster 2.0 back there. Okay, we can have the next picture. This is like 3 pissed off pinball people. Dave Gilmore was part of that museum exhibit that Greg talked about, and he's a retired photography professor at the University of Illinois. He takes a lot of portraits like this. He does a lot of hot rodder portraits, but we all look like, okay, take the damn picture, I got important things to do. That's John Yowsey, that's me, and that's Rob Craig. He writes for Pin Game Journal sometimes. Gary made us, this was the Pirates whitewood, and Gary made us cover it up because it had that parlay feature in it, and he didn't want anybody to know about it, although I don't know who would rip it off because we're the only company making pinball games. And there's Gary with a stern look. All right, I'm sorry. Gary hated that picture. He thought in pictures that you should always be smiling. And he thought with artwork, he complained about the Pirates artwork because Kevin had like nice dark edges around, and you would focus on the artwork. Gary always said, no, we gotta have art to the edges. He didn't think he was getting his money's worth unless the art went to the edges of the frame. Okay. This is Dwight's office. Dwight Sullivan. Dwight Sullivan he was the programmer during Pirates. I don't know how these guys stay alive. And all programmers are like nocturnal. And Dwight would roll in around noon and then go out to lunch for 2 hours and then work till midnight.
What's the play field for?
Well, that's just Pirates, isn't it? I think so. Yeah.
Without the parlay.
Yeah, without the parlay. Okay. More of Dwight's food. Diet Pepsi, he lived on that. What is that drawing? Is that 24?
It's T3, I think.
T3? Okay, next. And this is the whitewood as it's a little further along. We had part of the ship molded. Those sails on that one are cardboard. And I think in this generation of the game, I had the
It's a laser pointer right there.
oh, okay. I'm not technical enough.
You have to point it at
Power.
No, don't hit the power. There's a laser button.
Oh, no.
I told you it'd be interesting. Don't let me have that.
What was the boat?
Talk amongst yourselves.
What was the
What?
boat made of in that photo?
That was
Was it Nordman?
that was probably no.
Right, exactly.
No, the sails were Nordmanite, but
Yeah.
that's Steve Ritchie's term for the foam core that I used to build a lot of prototypes and models with. He called it Nordmanite.
What did you do to this thing?
So imagine the next picture.
Plug it for a minute.
He pulls down and then probably fire back up.
Don't, just unplug it. Leave it.
Any questions, comments,
Leave it.
criticisms?
Seriously, it's gotta cool down.
Tell us about where you've been sticking your fingers.
Oh, geez, that story. 2 years ago, December 7th, I was plowing my driveway. It's like 130 feet long, and I had this old snow plow that I bought on eBay. And down at the bottom of the driveway where the city snow plow leaves a nice pile of slush for you, it kept getting clogged up, and I was getting irritated and shaking it, and I thought I was smart enough to know where the blades were, so I thought, well, I'll just reach in a little, bam! And I broke 3 fingers on my left hand. And then I sold the snowblower.
On eBay?
Yes, on eBay. And so I had these black casts on my fingers, and Steve took a picture of me showing him this is the finger that got hurt the most. It's got a screw in the tip of it. Wow. No questions?
So did all your
What a difference from Greg's presentation.
Did all the pinball building experiences go as equally well as your functioning of a laser pointer?
No, fortunately, most of them went better, didn't they? I actually got some pinball games done. Yes, Dave.
So tell Disney war stories.
Oh, Disney. Dave probably knows more about the Disney war stories than all of us, but we had the license. I thought it was cool. I thought it was great. And then I heard from somebody that, well, we don't have the script. We can't use any lines from the movie. We don't have any of the actors. And I went and I said, Gary, did you know that I did? He's, yeah, I know, goddammit. He was a crabby guy to work for. And so everything with Disney was separate. The Yo-Ho song in the beginning, we had to pay separately for that. We couldn't use any of the original script unless we paid extra for it. We couldn't include anything from the park ride. We couldn't use any of the music. They did allow us, they supplied a Jack Sparrow sound-alike. Look, I can't even think of the actor's name. Johnny, good. So they supplied a Johnny Depp sound-alike for Jack Sparrow. And we had a Second City writer write a lot of lines for us. What's his name? Glenn Eric. He teaches at Second City. And he wrote a lot of lines for the Pirates game. I thought I was so clever because I wrote things like, you build rats, and he came up with pages and pages and pages of stuff. It was amazing, all the stuff he came up with. But Disney had to approve it all, and it took time for those approvals. And by the time we got some of that stuff approved, and we wanted to put more in, Gary was against bugging Disney anymore because he was pretty afraid of them. And then I'm sure Dave has a lot of stories about the music.
Well, the speech was, we had a script, and marketing, Disney marketing had approved the script. So we have 500 lines of pirate stuff that Disney has approved. So we went into a recording studio and spent money and recorded it. Meanwhile, that script, our script, had somehow surreptitiously gone from Disney licensing to Disney Creative, the people involved in making the pirate films. And they're writers, and they looked at our script and said, oh, no, 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 no. And they went through and redlined and
Yeah, that's right.
approved about half the lines.
That's right, I remember
We had
that.
already recorded the lines the other way, and Disney said, well, you can't, you can only use our lines because, well, we speak English good.
And we spell parlay correctly.
Yeah. And they threw out scallywag. And I mean, it's just,
Yeah, great, yeah.
so we had all this stuff in the can, and we had to throw almost, not quite half of it away, just gone, because it didn't meet the creative side of Disney's approval, and the timing was all screwed up. So we ended up with less lines than,
That's what happened. We had a lot more risque stuff that we had put in there that they nixed.
yeah. Well, and also, the other limitations for Jack could not use any words outside of the 17th century. He could not say anything about pinball or
Oh, yeah.
jackpot or anything that wouldn't have occurred in the 1700s. Well, this makes your custom speech a little less useful.
But in spite of that, it turned out pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, we have pictures. So I believe this was a hard copy mold of the ship that Dave Link sculpted. And that's that metal housing for the treasure chest. And this big PC board there, I can't remember if that was just a test to make that Jack the Monkey loop score, or if that's what the engineers had proposed, but of course I hated it. I mean, look how much space that takes up. So in production, it finally shrunk. My original idea for Jack the Monkey was to have, let's go to the next slide and see if it's on there. And Jack the Monkey was separate. Jack the Monkey wanted money. We finally got around that, and we were able to use the Jack the Monkey shot. This is at the trade show where Pirates debuted. There was always people playing it.
What happens to the machines that get played at the show?
I think they just go to distributors.
They pay a little less.
Yeah. Okay, next. Oh, well, that's all for Pirates. Well, this is like out of sequence. But my original thought for Jack the Monkey was have Jack sit on top of that ramp and just have a kinetic lever that the ball would pass by and make Jack the Monkey jump. But budgetary restraints again. This is my first whitewood for Wheel of Fortune. Now, I read that a lot of people wanted to be able to spell the puzzles, but you just can't do that in a pinball game. If you would stop the ball and scroll through a screen to pick your letters, that would never work. So then my thought was, where you see the N and the E and the R, was to have a little LED display, and it would change randomly, and then you could pick the letter that you wanted. But we finally went with just having the contestants pick a word that was really in the puzzle. Otherwise, the game flow would have just been horrible. But so it changed a lot from that. Okay, next. Okay, this This is my Transformers whitewood. So I watched the movie a bunch of times, and well, can you see it in this? You can't. In the back left, there's a big giant gun, like one of the Transformers' arms, and the gun would hold 3 balls, shoot 3 balls out of the gun across an open space. This would have been a wire ramp down around below the flippers and back up and feed it back into here. So because I needed the space here, I did the same thing as I did on Wheel of Fortune with the 2 lanes down here. Because I needed to move the flippers up, I had the space, so I thought, well, why not make some scoring opportunities? But in this game, I was able to tweak the slingshots and the out lane and the return lane so that it didn't. It was like a regular pinball game here. I know on Wheel of Fortune it drained a lot on the drain lanes. That's why we put the free spin on there, because at Stern, once you got your whitewood build and they started ordering parts, there was really no time to make any drastic playfield changes. So we couldn't fix it on Wheel of Fortune, but I wanted to do it on here. When I had to give a presentation at work, Gary hated this. Gary thought the reason Wheel of Fortune failed was because of the way I did the flippers and the 2 lanes below the flippers. And I said, but Gary, let me explain why. Because it gives, and then I had these, I still had these a switch here, a switch here, and a switch here, and a switch here. So if you drain, there's still some gameplay. The whole game isn't over. It was like Wheel of Fortune, like I said, but it just didn't drain as much. Gary hated it. I said, Gary, let me explain why. No, you're not going to explain why. All our games will have the standard Italian bottom, and that's it.
It's interesting there that I think that was the first time I've ever heard it acknowledged that a game failed. You said Gary was talking about why the game failed. So if it was a failure, you don't...
Well, I consider it that because it didn't sell out. And I really got burned out on this game because I worked like 12 hours a day all spring, all summer, never saw my wife, and it went out with unfinished software, and I was so irritated. We're talking about Wheel of Fortune now. And I was so irritated with that, that wasn't a pleasant experience.
It's so frustrating when you feel that when a game gets released before it...
Yeah, and I had a whole 3-page list of things that I insisted that had to be in the game before I thought it was finished, and it never all got in there. And Gary said, we were at another meeting, and I said I wanted some more stuff in it, and he said, no, the game is finished. And of course that irritated Keith too. I mean, Keith came up with a lot of great deep rules for that game. And he was supposed to get a lot of software help, but it never happened.
So what's going on in the upper right there?
Okay, the upper right is the Allspark. And in the center you can see a little bar with a hole in it. And that had a ring permanent magnet in it. And there was going to be a shot up around the left, drops the ball in that permanent magnet, and it just holds it. It's cool. It looks like it's just floating in space. And this arm would have flipped up, and the arm would have been designed to look like a transformer's hand, and it would have held the ball next to the Allspark. Inside the there was a hole on that side. Inside the Allspark was an electromagnet, and the electromagnet would suck the ball out of the hand into the Allspark, and then the Allspark would have... Well, I really wanted to have fiber optics and flashers and all that stuff in it. That never would have happened, but the Allspark would have gone crazy then and given you a lot of cool effects and bonuses. You can't see the gun. This is...
You want to try to light it up? I might be able to light it up.
Well, I have other pictures if you want. Let's try the next picture. Well, that's the Allspark, and you can see here, this is where the permanent magnet was. Shoot the ball into there. This would have flipped up. It would have sucked the ball into the Allspark. And then I think it was going to drop it out back into this lane, back to the flipper. This was a ramp shot that was going to go up and you just slam into the Allspark, but you couldn't get into it unless you went around the other way.
So this game, they just gave this up as a theme entirely, right?
Yeah, because I was working on this on and off for 4 months and doing Spider-Man Redemption at the same time. And Gary said, no, keep working, we'll get the license, and he never got the license.
Do you think it might still see the light of day without the license?
No. This is trashed. That's gone.
Why is everything coming out nowadays with a license? There's nothing like original titles. Everything comes out, it's based off of something. It goes with like you got to deal with Disney for Pirates of the Caribbean.
I know, it was...
Other things, Medieval Madness or other machines like that have their own original title. You don't have to deal with any of that stuff.
And as designers, we love to do original themes, and it's actually easier because if you run into a problem or a logic problem or a rules problem, you can just invent anything new you want to. If you're following a theme, you have to adapt that theme to the game. And we all, of course, wanted to do original themes, but Gary was completely against it because he didn't think in this day and age that he could sell anything original. He would sell a game. Well, he totally ignored the home market. This was like several years ago. He would sell a game based on the theme, the distributors would buy the games, not knowing what it is or how it played or what it was, but if it had a cool theme, they'd buy it. So Gary insisted all games had to have licenses. Isn't that about right, Steve? Steve didn't hear me.
You're being spoken to.
Oh my God. Well, I'm kind of a deaf man, so what's the...
Did you hear me talk about licensing and Gary insisting on licensing?
Yeah, what he would do is he'd get a real red face and title, and bang on the table with some spit coming out.
Spit, yeah, I remember the
Get all
spit.
angry. We weren't allowed to even contemplate original themes. That's how it was. But I'm not sure I disagree with it. I didn't really, love it. Well, the worst thing was when he would pick a theme and it would be lousy, and then make us do it, and that was terrible. But he might have been right on the commercial level that it would be a good thing to have titles on there.
Thank you. All right. Now it'll be professional like Greg. Okay, next picture. Okay, there's the gun. I made that gun out of plumbing, ABS plumbing parts and all kinds of stuff. And you can see on the play field. This was a shot into here. This would have popped up the ball. This is like a two-dimensional drawing. This is actually at the level of this gun, but I just didn't build this part yet. So it would have popped the ball up, so there was a storage area to feed 3 balls into the gun, and then the gun would fire. It would have blue LEDs around here that would flash and rotate in a circle and be all exciting and cool. Shoot the ball out onto this wire ramp and back down to the flippers like you saw before. And that's the main. I had a random element above the jet bumpers with just a series of targets, stand-up targets back here that were just random. One of the things I always like to try to do, pinball became more of a skill player's game, and there was less of the Harry Williams, the ball is wild. So I wanted to try to get, because everything was a shot and there was really no random areas to score and just to be lucky. So that's what this area was intended to be back here. You couldn't really shoot them, but you could but the pop bumpers would make the ball hit those areas. I still have this gun. I might put that on eBay. If I don't get, like Greg and Steve, I'm unemployed too.
Does it light up?
What game?
No, it's not electric.
I didn't hear that.
Oh, so you don't want it.
Oh, Transformers?
Yeah, Transformers. I don't think you were there for any of that one.
I think I was. Didn't Tim do the work at Foyer? What's his name?
I didn't work at Star.
Transporters.
No, Transformers.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was a board ship, actually.
It does look like a board ship, doesn't it? And this was the bad guy Transformer, and I really kind of forget what I had intended for that, but I think somehow he was going to fall down and then pop up. And he was going to be molded and had the red LEDs in his eyes. Okay, next picture. There's a better shot of the gun that I made.
So that's the one that's used on eBay, really.
That's what I may put on eBay, yeah.
What's
No,
the
that's
asking,
shot. That's shot.
Oh, yeah.
what's the asking price?
I don't have an asking price. I don't know. So that's about all that I can remember for Transformers. Okay, next. Okay, now we're back to Pirates again. This is so out of sequence, I'm sorry. But this was Kevin's first sketch for the Pirates artwork. And he just worked on this basic area here and came up with the treasure map idea, and then water all around here. Then his second sketch included a lot more. See, he's got Jack the Monkey sketched in there, and he had an X there for where the treasure chest shot was. And then he refined it even more, and we've got the Jack the Monkey hanging there. And he did more of the artwork towards the top and filled in these areas here. put some coins in front of the treasure chest. The key stayed, of course.
Was that a color sketch with,
He did this he sent me Photoshop files.
oh, you did?
Yeah. Well, he sent me JPEGs, but I believe he did this in Photoshop. Okay, next. All right, we're back to, this is a close-up of the Pirates Whitewood that I showed you earlier with the first mold of the ship and the cardboard sails with part numbers. And here's this big, ugly, I think that's a sensor to read the ball coming through there.
What did you guys make the plastics out of, the ramps?
Well, this is a molded ramp. This was a test mold off of a wood mold. I would make them first out of Nordmanite and plastic, and so this is a test shot. You can see how rough it is because the wood mold, of course, isn't polished. We were having trouble with the ball staying in this one, so I forget who did it. Ray probably added these ugly wire rails on the side, but we eventually got it working, so we didn't have to put those wires on it. Okay. All right, back to the artwork, where it's becoming more refined now. On this side, he added the explosions around the swords up there, and it just kept becoming more refined. Yeah, he finished all of these on this side. You can't see the bottom here, but he had the Pirates of the Caribbean logo there that eventually came out to whatever that says there. Okay. And then this was the one that we got back from Disney once he sent them the final one. This is what their comments were. And a lot of them made sense. Like, we didn't know how to spell Anne Bonny. They said you spell it with an E. Kevin had it spelled with just A and N. They'd like to have a full image of Davy Jones. I don't remember if that ever got in there or not. I'd have to look at a playfield. But there's their parlay, no E. Change this parlay, no E. And then Davy Jones, we didn't know, but it had no E in it. Then they wanted to fade the purple section to black, but we didn't want to do that because it just makes the whole playfield look dark in the back there. So we got away without doing that. And we wanted, of course, to put some hidden Mickeys in here because at the Disney parks, but we were put down on that. No hidden Mickeys, but we did sneak one in. So I don't know if I should tell you where it is or not, but it's in there. Well, shouldn't you have to be able to find it? Next picture, maybe it's on the next. Well, anyway, here's where it is. He had these coins all spread out. I said, Kevin, I think we can get a hidden Mickey in there with those coins. So I wanted to show you how he moved them, but this coin here and this coin here, he just moved them closer to the big one there. And Disney never caught it, so we put one over on Disney. We were so proud. Okay, whatever the next picture is. This is our final Whitewood with a lot of lettering because we had finally had our features figured out. And there was my Jack the Monkey that was going to jump, but that didn't happen. This has a painted boat with painted sails. And so that's how we started. And then Kevin, well, no, we just built this one to show to Disney, I think, so they'd know what all the labeling and everything was on the real pinball game. Okay, next picture. And this is it lit up in Dwight's office. Okay. There's the happy fathers. Okay. And this is the final playfield. I took this from the pinball database. So you can see the hidden Mickey is still there. There's one there and one there. Okay, let's see what's next. Oh, that's the Wheel of Fortune playfield. But I wanted to show you something before this, but that's the final one without all the lettering on it. Okay. Another very early Pirates Whitewood. And this is a ramp that Ray made. Ray said, I could make a cool ramp for you. So he made it out of all these steel pieces, and it was clunky and ugly and played terrible. And this is my foam core ship. And I got a picture from some of the stuff that Disney sent us. And so that's how the ship actually started. It was from a Disney picture of the, it wasn't the Black Sparrow, it wasn't the Black Sparrow, oh man. It was the other ship. No, it was the bad guy's ship. Davy Jones' ship. Anyway, that's just cut out of foam core and stuck on there. So that's how we started to figure out the position of everything and the visual space it was going to take up. Okay, let's see what the next picture is. Okay, now this is after the Elvira game, and this was Cashbox magazine came out and took just way too many pictures of us doing stupid stuff on the assembly line. Greg probably remembers this.
I have no recollection of this.
Really? There you are.
No, that's not me.
That's not you?
Right.
That's, oh, with a mustache. They haven't seen that before. So that's Chris Granner, who did the sounds for it. This is Laura Rezik, who was marketing.
Yeah.
Marketing, that's Mark Panaccio, the programmer. This is me after my famous dirt bike accident where I broke all my bones. This is, who is that? I don't know who that is. That's Patla, that's Tony Pugh. He did all the mechanical engineering. And that's Greg. Yeah, during Elvira, I used to race a lot when I lived in Ohio before I moved out to Chicago. And I sold all my bikes and I moved out to Chicago and I bought a bike, but I didn't know anybody that rode. And when Williams bought Bally, I met Steve and his brother Mark, and they wanted to go dirt bike riding. So I thought, oh wow, this is great. I got some guys to ride with now. And we went out to some place where I'd never been before, and we were riding through the woods, and we popped out onto this nice dirt road, and I was last, and Mark Ritchie was ahead of me, so I thought, I'm really gonna gas it and pass Mark. And I know I was up to about 60 miles an hour, and it was all my fault because I was watching Mark and not watching the road, and the road made a 90-degree turn to the right, and I didn't. And I smashed, I was laying there on the ground, and I looked down, and my femur was just bent in a V.
Do you have screws in your femur now?
You know, I spent 3 months in traction, so that's why Steve and Mark and Jim Patla, we had the Whitewood finished, and my drawing was almost finished when I crashed, and then Steve Ritchie and Mark Ritchie and Jim Patla all helped finish up the drawing, and you probably remember more about what went on at that time than I do.
Well, we would visit, Mark Panaccio and I would visit Dennis in the hospital, and he's all like this, and we're going over game rules and stuff and all that stuff. He goes, that sounds great. So me and Mark were like, okay.
You guys could have said anything. Okay, next picture. The Jack Hager, he sculpted our first skull for this. I was sitting in Greg's office one day. We were talking about Elvira and the Party Monsters. And I was just sitting there flipping through a comic book, not paying attention. And I looked down, and here was this mountain that looked like a skull. And I said, Greg, this is so cool. We got to put this in the game. So that's where that idea came from. A comic book in Greg's office. Okay. Boy, a lot of this gets cut off, doesn't it? So this is, I believe this is your first sketch of our attempt at doing the spider. And the cat's head is turned, isn't it looking at the player in the finished game? Yeah. This is how things change. You just generate ideas and they evolve and develop and change. And okay, next picture. Then this, wow, that's cool. This is the improved monster skull from Scared Stiff. And Jerry Pensler's assistant, do you remember his name? He sculpted this.
He was like a 19-year-old kid.
Yeah, he was.
Brought this in and we were like, yeah.
Because we didn't give him any direction. We just said we want something cool and monstrous looking. And then he brought that. Well, actually, there were several versions. I might have pictures of them in here somewhere if we come across them. Okay.
There's another interesting aspect to that. On the original Elvira, somebody in engineering didn't want us to use red eyes in the eyes.
In the skull.
Right, in the skull. So we used green eyes because they weren't like devil.
In the South, they thought, we'll never sell those games in the South. Well, not with Red Eyes. You guys can't do that.
So then when we went to Scared Stiff, we just did the Red Eyes.
We just did the Red Eyes, yeah. So we won again. Little battles. Okay, this was the sketch that Disney provided us of the Kraken, and I Xeroxed like a bunch of copies of this and cut all up pieces, and that's how I created the Kraken for the behind the ship. Okay. After my first pinball layoff from Williams, I designed some ticket redemption games, and this is Tower Power that I designed for skee-ball, and they're still building this game. And they're still selling them, and I still get a little royalty, enough to keep me in spam. Okay. And then this is the Disney-provided photograph of the real treasure chest. The real chest was about this size. And I had a little short video of a guy actually putting a key in it. These little things popped out, and the lid flipped open. That was an amazing mechanical device that they came up with. Okay.
Is that on eBay?
Oh, we don't have that. We just have pictures of that. Another close-up. I'm sorry this is so disjointed, but it's like my personality, so it's fitting. Blackwater 100. When I was racing back in Ohio, I participated in this race called Blackwater 100 that was held in Davis, West Virginia, and at the time it was known as America's toughest race. It was 100 miles through the nastiest, muckiest, swampiest junk you could ever imagine in West Virginia. And it took me all day to finish one lap. And the fast guys, they finished 4 laps in like 6 hours. So that's Dave Coombs, who was the promoter of the race, and I convinced Bally that I thought it'd be a great idea to do this theme, and they finally let me do it because I like dirt bikes. And so that's Dave Coombs, the promoter of the race, and this is Mark Hyde. He won the race like 2 or 3 years in a row. And the playfield layout was inspired by Dan Langlois' Escape from the Lost World, because he was the very first one that did that deep playfield. And I thought that was such a cool, innovative idea to use all that extra room. That gave me room to put that playfield that slanted opposite the player above the flippers.
So is that a licensed game?
Yes, it is. I don't think it costs us very much, but we licensed the name of the race. Okay. And look at the money we used to spend on our show displays. We tried to make it look like, I don't know why there's palm trees, because there's no palm trees in Davis, West Virginia, but it was the only plants they could get, I guess, in Las Vegas. Okay, and we auctioned that little ATV, and we gave that ATV away at the trade show. Who's this?
Herb Schwan.
That's Steve in his younger days. Claude Fernandez, that's me. I think that's Larry right there, and I can't tell who everybody else is. I think that's Joe. Yeah. Okay. And it was so cool because they all came over, and I was so excited because all these great Williams guys came over to play my Blackwater game. So there's Claude Fernandez. I don't know if you know, my favorite game of his was Flash Gordon. And there's Mr. Ritchie, Ed Boon of Mortal Kombat fame.
Wasn't Flash Gordon Greg Pack? Silence.
Oh, I don't know. Who was Flash Gordon?
Claude Fernandez.
Yeah, you're wrong. Pat Aller, Larry DeMar when he mostly had hair. That's Ward Pemberton, right? I can't see from here.
Or Larry Stallman.
Oh, Larry Stallman, yeah. Okay, next. That's me when I was cool.
Oh, that's Bigfoot.
What?
That's Bigfoot.
Yeah, that's Bigfoot. So embarrassing to see pictures. Did any of you have pictures like that from the 60s or 70s? Man. And that's my little daughter, Sherry, who's 39 now. So that was right before the Blackwater race. Okay, next. Just more shots of Blackwater at the trade show. Next. Mark Hyde, he was there at the trade show and signed autographs for people that knew what the race was. Next. Out of all the times we went to the Blackwater, maybe 3 or 4 times, me and all my buddies, and the only one of us that ever came home with a trophy was one of the guy's wives, Mary Lou. And so that's Mary Lou at the Blackwater. Okay, next. And this is during the Elvira and the Party Monsters trade show. One of these is Greg. I think it's this one. And the other is Panacho in costume. Okay, and that's me with my broken leg. Okay. Wow. Okay, this is how I got my start in the industry. This is a pinball cabinet I designed in college to be made out of fiberglass, and I tried to make it really futuristic. This was like one of my first sketches. And the reason the handle is up there, I was trying to experiment with ways to make the playfield lower so little kids could see it, but yet keep the flipper controls at the same height for adults so it would still be comfortable. And I had on this pedestal to make it look modern. And the only thing that I probably really would change is the back box. When the artists at Bally saw this, they hated it because it was only like the size of a video game back box. Okay. And some more sketches and sketch ideas of the game. During this time, all the speakers in pinball games were in the bottom with the sound aimed towards the floor. So I had the speakers in this area here, pointing towards the player. So that was the first time that was done. I also had all the displays. The displays at that time were all over the back box because it was just a holdover from the mechanical reel days. And my reasoning was, well, it would be easier to read your score and access your score if it was all located in one area. Now, I really think that the first person who ever did that in production was Steve on Hyperball.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, we copied it on Rapid Fire.
What year did you make this cabinet? About?
Well, must have been 1980. I think I came out here in 81. Must have been around 1980. Okay, next.
Was that the inspiration for your handles on Demo Man?
Yes. Yes, it was. Uh-huh. This is just part of our I don't know if you've ever seen the sales promo for Demolition Man. What's funny?
Greetings and salutations. How about a little demolition? More ramps mean more adventure and more challenges. More than any other amusement device. 2 control methods are offered. You can use either the standard flipper method or give these big steel grips a try. I like to use these because once you grab on, you won't want to let go. Demolition Man delivers one cryokinetic blast after another. It's an action adventure that gives you the biggest bang for your pinball buck.
We thought we were doing cool stuff, didn't we? So this is part of I built this set out of stuff and plywood and a terrarium, and so this was the set for the video shoot. Okay, next. This is such a mess. This was the model that I built for the Tower of Power game for skee-ball. And I always keep all kinds of plastic parts and junk around, and there's pinball parts on here. These are from Scared Stiff. And old Bally pinball posts, I always like those. And some deodorant jars and all kinds of stuff. So that's how Tower of Power started. Okay. Whitewood of Dr. Dude. Okay. This was the early Whitewood before it was this is when it was going to be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I wanted to do something like Dr. Doom or some bad guy, and this was going to be his power machine that you had to feed. And this is where my first jumper bumpers were on too, I think. Weren't they first on Dr. Dude? The jumping bumper caps? And that was our model of those. And Greg didn't like my Dr. Doom idea, and he said there's already a comic book called that. He came up with the Dr. Dude theme. So we thought that was pretty cool. So Greg does do a lot of humor things. A lot of our games were humor games. Well, we thought they were funny. Okay. This is more of the video shoot for Demolition Man. Okay. And more me working on my terrarium, putting smoke in the terrarium. Okay. And this is at the trade show. I brought some of my stuff from the video shoot that we put behind the game at the trade show. And this girl, her name is Tracy Coco. We had her at the trade show, and she was also in the video. She had a small walk-on part in the actual movie, but then she also appeared every week on Star Trek The Next Generation. Yeah. But you usually only saw her back because she was standing in the background working controls and stuff. Okay. And this is at the Elvira photo shoot in California that I didn't get to go to because I was in the hospital for 3 months with a broken leg. But that's Roger Sharp, Jim Patla, and Cassandra. Okay. And then just a shot of us working on the game. Tony Pugh, the mechanical guy, Mark Panaccio, the programmer. Okay. And me and Elvira. Okay. This is posing for the Wolfman? Yeah. It was such a hassle getting to work every day. I had to hobble in to the office on my crutches, call somebody down to come and get my wheelchair out of the van, and then roll around like to the back of the building onto the freight elevator, which had doors that you had to open and close yourself, and I'd ride up and down on the freight elevator every day.
You were so scared when that happened, I'll tell you right now. We didn't know if you were going to live or die, because it wasn't just your leg, that's all you talked about. You had...
Well, I broke 3 ribs.
Bleeding and
Yeah.
all kinds of things.
It was pretty scary.
It was a terrible thing.
I remember Mark stopped, and he probably shouldn't have done this, but he pulled off my helmet, and I was gasping for breath because I couldn't get any air, because I found out later that the whole bike had landed on my leg. There was a big knobby tire print on my leg, so that's what really happened. Mark says,
Up in the air.
yeah. Yeah, I went over the bars, and the bike landed on top of me.
My brother has told me many times.
He was scared, I remember. Yeah. But I survived. Okay. Greg, hard at work at the board. Not that he was under any pressure or anything. But that's what he looked like a lot during the project. Leave me alone.
That face right there says to me, get out of here with
Well, actually, that brush is up my nostril.
Oh, it is, isn't it?
I know my nostrils are big, but
Okay. This is one of the Monster Skull versions. You can see the top here is a little bit different. We just let that sculptor go and do what he wanted to. And that was the first attempt at the ribs. Okay. Ralph, what's his name? He's from Flame Eater magazine, I think. Yeah. Eddie Adlum, yeah.
Eddie Adlum, that's right. And what's he doing there?
Okay, next. That's me making these guys work a little harder.
Looks like you're going to kill Panaccio.
There was many times when I wanted to, but there was many times when he wanted to kill me too.
that's why we enjoy the morphine days.
I kind of liked them too. Okay, next. Roger Sharp with Elvira. Next. And her standing. I just thought, I don't know, I just thought you might enjoy seeing these pictures because they're not around very much. And I always like looking at Elvira anyway. Okay. This trade show, we were just amazed at the crowds of people around our booth at that show. There were people lined up all the way around the whole show floor waiting to get her autograph. It was very special that year. I don't recall anything like that happening since then. She was a big draw. Okay. There you can see the crowd of people around the booth just to see Elvira. And some of them played the game. Okay. All right, go on. This is Greg. Greg made this sign after we won. Greg explained how Elvira and the Party Monsters won Best New Equipment for the show, but Greg's not a very good speller. But nobody caught it, so. Okay, next. I think you saw this picture in Greg's presentation. Us and the good doctor, okay? The master artist, okay? More of the, back to the Demolition Man video shoot, okay? Me and Tracy. Me building the set, working in the factory late at night and on weekends, because they wouldn't let me do this on Williams' time, which was 12 hours a day anyway. Okay. And that's Tracy at, I think this is where I met her, at Steve's Star Trek.
Yeah, she was,
and she was dressed up, she used to make appearances dressed as a Borg. And that's where I learned that she was in the Demolition Man movie. So I thought, oh, maybe we can get her to be in our video. Okay. All right, now we're into Indy 500. And Greg and I and John Yowsey and Mike Boone, this is Mike Boone, spent a day at the Indy 500 track during practice. This is some of the cool stuff that we got to do. This was fun to go to the racetrack. So we were right in the pit lane. That's Ari Lyondike. Next, a racer. That's not a racer. This is at a car show in Chicago where I talked to Elvira and asked her if she'd be interested in doing another pinball game, and that's how Scared Stiff started. Greg and I had a hard sell at Williams to get him to do it again, but it turned out pretty good. Okay, next. And that's me and Big Daddy Ed Roth. I'm proud of that picture.
Nice.
He was a famous, if you don't know, he was a famous car customizer in the 60s. Okay. This is Tracy at the trade show, and this was a building contractor in Chicago who did little stints as Sylvester Stallone lookalike with a tan. Okay. These are my prototype handles for Demolition Man. I made my first one out of Nordmanite stuff. Then we actually had a model maker make them out of wood. Okay. This is at the trade show with Steve's game. Okay. More of the Demolition Man set. What a mess. Tracy during the video shoot. That was at the trade show. Okay. More of setting up at the trade show. Okay. Geez, there's a lot of this in here. This was my first version of my cabinet that I designed in college. My first, because they didn't want to build it out of fiberglass, so this is the closest thing that came to it. And I think I did this for Rapid Fire, our copy of Hyperball that we were forced to do. Okay. And I put this in. This is George Christian. He designed, what were his famous games? George Zazada or George Christian, yeah. And that's Norm Clark. And this, I think this is the Mr. and Mrs. Pac-Man game. Okay. More of the art department and Gilligan. That's Ward. Ward did the Gilligan game. Doug Watson, Greg, Linda Deal. Jack Hager, he's the one that sculpted the Skull Mountain for Elvira. Pat McMahon, he did my Party Animal game. Okay. Me and Cassandra. And I took the set from, this is in my office, I took the set from Demolition Man and stuck it up in my office. On the table here, you can see this pile of skulls. This was a plaster pile of skulls that I bought at Disney World, and that's what inspired the skull pile in the Scared Stiff game. And I just drilled holes through their eyes and we put LEDs in it. Okay. All right, that's Tower Power in process. She just had this was Cassandra again. She had a great time doing the speech for Elvira and the Party Monsters. She loved saying all the risque stuff that we came up with, and like Greg said, she was really great to work with. Okay. Oh, this is the Whitewater team. Chris, Mike Boone, Scott. He did the dot matrix animations. And our buddy Bigfoot. Okay. And then this is the Scared Stiff team. Before I was asked to leave the company. Okay, and that's Mark Wayna. He helped a lot on the project. In fact, he came up with the ramp flap for the spider hole area. Okay.
So how far along was the game when you were?
It was finished. So I didn't even get to go to the trade show and enjoy the celebration. And that's her playing the game. Okay. This is Pat's original sketch for, well, a lot of this doesn't show up on here. Original sketch for Party Animal. And I thought it was a wolf. I don't know why I wrote wolf on there, and Pat scratched it out and said, "No, you idiot, that's a bear." And then we were in my office talking about the game, and he started to scribble on the sketch. He drew belly button and hair, and then he wrote bulge here. We always worked hard, and we're very serious about our work. Oh, there's another picture of it. And then the next picture shows like, well, you saw it on the right here. It was all, there it is. That's the finished version. Okay. That's Cassandra at the beginning of the MOA trade show. More of her at the booth. More of her at the booth. That's me in Party Zone at a trade show. That's what happens. That's what a game designer looks like when he parties too much after his game wins Best New Product of the show. My wife took that picture. Okay, next. Bobby Rahal at the Indy. This is interesting because it just jumps around, right? Okay. Lynn St. James in her car. It was just so cool to be there and be right there in the pit lane. I was talking to Greg, and I remembered when we were all down at Indy for the practice, Greg and I, we had walked around, we talked to some of the mechanics. I was just trying to gather all kinds of information on the Indy race and Indy cars. And we were all done with that. And then Greg and I, some of the other people left, I guess. Greg and I were sitting in the stands, sitting in the sun, race cars going by 200 miles an hour. We each had a beer in our hand, and Greg looks at me and says, "We're working." That was funny. Okay. This is how I really got my start in Chicago. So I had to have back surgery during my senior year in college. I couldn't take my design courses for another year. So when I was recovering, I built a full-size version of the cabinet. I have a model of this cabinet that I made. I don't know where the pictures are. I built a full-size version. I took it to Schaefer Distributing to take some pictures of it next to current games. And this is where the display area would have been. This is where the speaker area was. This whole lid would have opened up like this, so you wouldn't have to slide the glass out and sit it somewhere and break it. Then Schaefer knew Chuck Farmer, who was the president of the Bally Pinball Division when I got hired, came from Schaefer Distributing. So they set me up with an appointment with Chuck Farmer. I got in my old beat-up van and drug this cabinet out to Chicago, and they hired me to design cabinets, and nothing ever came of those.
Except for the handles and donuts.
Except for the handles on Demolition Man. Okay. This is, Greg talked about meeting Matt Groening at the Dr. Dude show. Matt signed my brochure for me for Dr. Dude. He wrote, "Great game, man." Okay. Then this is the replay cover of the Blackwater 100 game. Tony Ramone did the artwork. He lives in Italy now, right? Still, Greg?
Yeah.
Neil Falconer did the sounds, or some of the sounds. Greg and I actually did some of the sounds for that game. We went out to a motocross track and recorded a lot of motocross bike sounds. Jim Patla, Steve Blattspieler, who was our sales, Joe Dillon, who was in sales. Both of these guys have passed away now. Gary Oglesby was the programmer. And this is one of my many motocross trophies. That only cost me thousands and thousands of dollars and a lot of broken bones. What?
Is that Jose next to Joe Dillon? Jose Delgado?
No, that's Gary Oglesby.
No, to the right, or is that you?
That's me.
Sorry.
Jose.
It's very dark.
Yeah, okay, next. Special Force, my first pinball game. And this game was easy for me to do because I had a lot of ideas in my head and things that I wanted to do. It had the first funnel on a game. I used memory drop targets so that you could actually shoot rockets and knock the targets down without using the ball. And I had I wanted molded mountains and trees and stuff, but they ended up being just flat butyrates that I stacked up. And then my second game that I did, that was the hardest game I ever did because I used up all my good ideas on this game. Okay.
What about the girly version of this?
Special Force Girls, that was the German version because this was too military for the Germans. So there's a version with girls on the back glass.
And where was that made?
When? Where?
Where? Was it made here? Sorry. It was
We didn't make it, did we? No, they just bought the game and they put their artwork on it. The game's the same.
So they would have imported it from the States and then put their own background.
Put their own back glass on it.
And is that you on the right-hand side of the playfield?
I guess so. Oh. Okay, next. Another shot of the brochure. Okay. See, these, when I organized my slideshow, these were like the intros, and I was going to discuss each game. Okay. And this was the intro to Blackwater. This was the intro to Elvira. There's all these, where is it? Where's Nordman's broken ribs?
Next slide. Oh.
No, back up. Did we change these signs?
No, it's,
Oh no, there it is. It's at the top of this one. It's so blurry I can't see it. But there's a lot of broken bones in this game because of all the bones I broke during that accident. And then that's the shot that Greg showed you of Patla and me in the wheelchair. This is, that's Tim Elliott. He was a bodybuilder. If you remember from Greg's presentation, he had a picture of Tim. And who was this, Greg? Anybody? And that? Anybody? Okay, and there's I Love Smarky. I Heart Smarky. They're divorced now. So she doesn't heart Smarky anymore. Okay. All right, that was my Dr. Dude intro. Just use your imagination on how all this flows together, so you go with the flow. Back up a bit. Greg, you tell the story of how we did the top.
I don't remember.
Don't you remember a guy came in, you said, with this process? It just happened.
We wanted to do a mechanical polarized spinning.
Oh yeah, polarized.
Polar motion. And so all of a sudden this guy came in out of the blue, and I ended up knowing his brother, which was another weird connection. And he had this foil and a foil stamping method that created the same thing as polar motion. So he said, all you got to do is have a series of chase lights in front of it, and it'll create this cool polar motion effect on this foil. And I was like, oh my God, where did you come from? It's like you were sent from heaven. So we brought him to the back, and we signed all sorts of forms and stuff, and we showed him what we were doing, and he goes, yeah, this will be perfect. So it was like the timing was just impeccable, and it was like, he literally was sent from, somewhere. It was pretty cool.
Why didn't you guys use that again, that foil process?
Probably expense.
Yeah, I think it's
We were getting, then after that we got away from toppers and.
right. A lot of times, you use something like a gimmick like that, and you did it, and okay,
Yeah.
next, figure, do something else.
Yeah. Okay, next. Okay, this is the intro to my Demolition Man discussion. This is the intro to my Indy 500 discussion. Scared Stiff.
I had a question on the
Sure.
car that spins around in the upper right-hand corner. What was your idea behind that? Just
To have a fast car spinning around.
to look
We're not that deep. Yeah, and it turned out to be kind of cool because if you make enough ramp shots and get it to spin fast enough, it shakes the game. It acts like a shaker motor, which I knew all along. I planned that.
There's the Y that I talked to you about yesterday. That you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even know this till you told me yesterday. This is spelled Willie with a Y, and on the play field it's spelled Willie with an IE. So we're a lot like Disney. This is my 1952 Dodge panel truck that I still have, and it's still not finished. Because I was always working on pinball games and never had time to work on it.
Is that Yowsi there?
This is, where's Yao? This is Yowsi. And where's his son? One of these is his son.
who's the girl in the bikini? Up front, right up front.
I don't know.
No, right up, bottom left.
Oh, her. I wish I knew. I don't know.
She wearing a life jacket like the rest of the crew?
Because you couldn't see her best parts if she wore a life jacket. Then it wouldn't be, it was a Williams game. I was going to say that it wouldn't be a Bally game. But it isn't. And I don't know who Wet Willie was. Maybe John just made him up. Okay.
Same guy from Frontier.
A close-up of the topper. Okay.
Hello.
And then I was just looking on the internet for a picture of Whitewater, and I apologize for the girl blocking the view of the game. My intro to Party Animal. Oh, this was like one of our first comps for the flyer. I don't know what the hell this is.
That's the log.
It's a log, yeah.
Oh, okay. And another comp. This is just to give you an idea of how we started the game flyers. Okay. That's the picture of the. That's where the skull came from for Scared Stiff. The picture in the comic book in Greg's office. What is that comic book, Greg? Do you remember?
I couldn't tell you.
So did you have a department to do those flyers, or did the game artist usually work on the flyers?
How did we do that flyer? Did we mock them up and then?
Not even. A lot of times it just went right to sales and marketing, and they went to an agency, and then the agency would work with us to refine.
Okay. John Yowsi came out to my house, did a lot of sketches of me and my face, and based Bigfoot on me.
It looks just like it.
Yeah, we need to turn your
does.
head that way. Yeah,
There it is.
The beard's a little grayer now. Okay.
So it's Bigfoot's.
This was one of Greg's first sketches for, we didn't know what the name of this game was. We couldn't figure, we had the hardest time coming up with a name. Greg and I, and a lot of times we were just trying to come up, because we did Elvira and the Party Monster, so we were trying to come up with Elvira and the something. And Elvira and the spooky spider, Elvira and her creepy house. And one day we thought we had it settled. I forget what the name was that we settled on. And we went into Mike Boone's office, and he just pissed all over it. He thought it was terrible. So Greg and I walked all dejected back to my office, and we were sitting there and mumbling and complaining about Mike Boone. And Greg just looks up and he says, "Scared stiff." I said, "That's it." But it took a long time. There was a lot of thought and sweat that went into that name. So the staircase, this is, I guess, when management decided they wanted a device in the back box, but we had features on the staircase that you would have tried to complete. And then you can't see it, but just for fun, Greg sketched Elvis in up here in this area. Okay. This is...
The color sketch.
Oh, okay, Greg's color sketch. And when Greg first showed me the color sketch, he had both her shoes on. And I said, "Greg, it'd be much sexier if you take one shoe off." So he said, "Well, you got some kind of foot fetish or something?" Maybe. And then I think you had the flashlight, and then we decided to put these batteries on the bed, but you'll notice that the flashlight is on, so the batteries were for something else. And then Greg put here, I think there was several movies. What were the movies on here? Anyway, one was called Black Thursday, and that was the day everybody got laid off. Okay. There's notches in her bedpost for whatever reason. And this is a picture I brought in of my wife's cat, Chelsea. And so Greg, she's actually a gray cat, but Greg drew her in the game, so that's where the cat came from. Okay. Oh, this is a color sketch you did of that.
How about that?
So we were serious, but Elvis isn't there anymore. See, Elvira, so we were just calling it Elvira, Mistress of the Dark for a while.
So how many sketches did you guys have to do?
Greg, how many did you do?
For this, I don't know, probably.
A lot.
Yeah.
But this, he did this for every game. This is just this part of the development process. Sometimes we didn't know where it was going, and
So how long did you spend on a sketch like that?
Probably a week, maybe half a week.
this was marker, watercolor.
Pencil.
Okay. This was my original skull pile that I bought at Disney World. Then this is a real one. Okay? Another version of the monster with different bones in his head.
With the skull pile, did you, there's an aftermarket candles kit where you can get the candles to flicker. Was that intended originally?
Oh yeah, yeah. The LED eyes were intended originally. And we even had a PC board made, a bendable PC board that you could put in there and it fit in all the eyes, but that got cost reduced out. Okay. Oh, that's your color sketch of the, right?
That might be a finished piece.
Oh, okay. All right. A couple different skulls, but test shots of from the plastics manufacturer, and whatever plastic they had laying around, they would give us these test samples just for approval for the shape and the size and the form. Okay.
Any idea where this stuff went?
Yeah, I sold some of those on eBay. Okay. There's a skull pile with the LEDs, the original one with the LEDs that we had in it. Okay, now if you care, I can show you pictures of Phyllis Rosenthal worked at Stern for years. She worked at all the pinball companies. She worked at Williams for years. She was our bill of materials person. She was a great lady and a lot of fun, and she retired. So when she retired, everybody went around and took pictures through the office. And I know a lot of people come to the factory tour, but you never get to see the offices of all the people that work there. So just a quick shot of this. This is me in my office and looking through the door. And Phyllis always just called me Feets. She'd walk by the door and say, "Hi, Feets," because that's how I drew my games. It was comfortable in those days. Okay. Phyllis always said she was not the mama. Everybody would always ask her for everything, and Phyllis could do anything for you. But she would never know where people would ask, because her office was right next to Ray Tanzer, who was the engineering manager. People would always ask her, "Where's Ray?" And she got so sick of hearing that she put this sign up. Okay? This is the front of the building, and that's actually Phyllis's little Suzuki right there. So what we did, we took all these pictures and put them on a digital picture frame for her so that when she retired, she could take this with her.
That's the Stern weed patch.
The stern, yeah, this is our front yard. Okay? And this is the beautiful entry. We never went in through the front. This is the door that everybody used.
Well guarded.
Well guarded. There was no guard, no nothing. Anybody could just walk in. So I took that for Phyllis so she could see where she walked. Well, we all walked in there every day.
Is that your tricycle?
Yes. Yeah, I wasn't allowed any more motorcycles. Okay, next. That is Marcia, Human Resources. Next. Joe Blackwell, he's one of the greatest guys I ever thought that was at Stern. He cared so much about pinball and did everything to help everybody that called in for parts or service or anything. And he always had a lot of input to the games as far as making sure they were serviceable. And he could be a pain in the ass sometimes, but he was usually right. And that's him in his office, okay? Dorothy, I forget her last name. Okay, you guys, did you work there?
But when you need parts, you talk to Dorothy.
Parts department, you talk to Dorothy, okay? Angel, he was shipping department. He packaged everything up and sent it out. So if any of you ordered parts from Stern ever, Angel is the guy that packed them, okay? Jackie in the accounting department, next. Shirley in the accounting department. Mark Schoenberg, who was like Gary's right-hand man. He worked with a lot of the licensors and coordinated a lot of stuff. Next. That's Phyllis on the left, and that's Ray on the right, being a pain in the ass to Phyllis, trying to work out the bill of materials.
Phyllis's son was in the pinball industry too, Jack Whitney.
Yeah, and then he went to IGT with Joe. Next.
Am I your memory?
Yes.
Well, I need help too.
God, I can't think of his name.
Great mechanical engineer.
Yeah, mechanical engineering. Anyway, he did your safe house, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I'm sorry, I can't remember his name right now. Rob, whatever his last name is, was another engineer. And that's him in his office. Next. Wally Welsh, he's been in the industry for years. Didn't Wally Welsh design Medusa? Glad you guys are here. So he took Phyllis's place when Phyllis retired, but poor Wally only worked about 3 months and got laid off with the rest of us. Okay, next. This is Phyllis. So you want to change a bomb, they call it a bomb bill of materials. And she had that picture up so you wouldn't come in and try to change anything on her. So we crossed out Phyllis's name and put Wally's name on. Okay. Dwight Sullivan in his office with 2 Diet Cokes. Next. This is part of the assembly line. Another shot of the assembly line. Okay. That's Shelley shipping. Thank you. Next. It's usually the view you saw of Ray Tanzer sitting at his desk working on something. His office was across from mine. But he's got a lot of cool stuff hanging on his walls. There's a Guns N' Roses thing that he could probably sell on eBay for a lot of money. Okay. John Borg, he's the last remaining employed pinball designer in the world.
Is he the lowest paid designer?
And the lowest paid.
I think he's been laid off most times too.
And laid off the most times of all of us.
He's the highest paid designer in the world.
You're absolutely right. He certainly is. And also the hardest worked right now.
Yeah.
He's going crazy. Okay, next. Jolly Backer, our sales department. Next. And our Lord and Master, Gary. All of us had desks that looked like this. Okay. I think we're about John Rothermel. He designed the ship mechanism, plus a lot of other stuff. But the one thing he did was the ship mechanism for Pirates. and a lot of stuff for Steve's game. He was a good guy, John. And he's the only real mechanical engineer that's left there now. And
Very good, too.
he's very good. And he's a French guy. And Rob is like his assistant.
Hey, let's party!
Live! Oregon!
Ooh, nice organ.
My life was dull, my life was drab, till I acquired the gift of gab. Always be excellent, never be rude. The gift of gab from Dr. Dude.